Good morning and welcome to my channel. Thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you for finding me. I am going to be coming back and doing a part 3 of the truth about being gay. And I'm going to explore that on a much deeper level. I'm going to explain and answer some of the questions that have come through. I am getting a lot of emails, a lot of DMs are really coming through, which is awesome. And I really love when people reach out to me and want to have real, deep conversations about this topic because it is so very concerning and it's so very, very painful. So thank you to everyone who's also booked me for a consultation. A lot of gay men are starting to wake up out there in the world. And I would say that you have a safe place in me to come to. I'm not going to want to fuck you. I'm not going to want to use you. I'm not going to want to hurt you. I'm just sharing my knowledge of what's really going on here. And that way you can take that knowledge and do something with it, or you can just ignore it and continue doing what you're doing. But either way, you're going to end up at the end of the path, which I have shown you, and it's not going to be good. So I will be going into a deeper dive into that in part 3. More than likely, this video series probably will be deleted as well. I also did complete a video on the Goetia. I still have that video recording, which I will be putting up on a Patreon paywall at some stage. So I will be talking about the demonic world, and I will be talking about its direct link to possession and its direct link to gay men. So if you're out there and you think, this isn't real, demons aren't real, angels aren't real, okay, they're there. All right, just take my word for it. And for a series of possessions to happen, or for any level of overtaking or demonic connection, I want you to understand that the law of resonance operates in the spiritual world. So a demon can't actually take over a person straight away. You have an auric field. You have sets of like home security systems all around your body. If you know anything about that, you'll know about all of the chakras, and you'll know about the auric field kind of spins. In relation to one of the questions someone asked me, how can I tell when someone has demonic possession? Because their auric field is a different color, and in some cases, some people's auric field spins backwards. So it doesn't move forwards, it spins backwards, and that's how I know that someone's under attack or someone has become so spiritually filthy and done so many things in the world that have caused trauma, chaos, trapping people, that type of thing, where they basically have, whether intentionally or inadvertently, had a series of what I call yeses. So in order for a demon to really get in there, it has to have a series of yeses. Okay, if you know what that means, it means that the person has yesed them to come in. The person has matched the demon. The person is behaving like a demon. As I have mentioned before, a lot of elitist people, a lot of lawyers in particular, all have a lot of very serious demonic links because they work in situations or they work in a role that is about manipulation of reality or truth to trap other people. Anything that deals in contracts, I can assure you that a lot of the demonic attachments are all there on those types of people. Also, I will be potentially, not that I want to make it harder on myself, but someone did ask me, would I talk about pornography in its relation to the demonic world, like fans only and things like that. And yes, I will. And yes, the answer is yes. Demons love pornography and they love people that get into fans only and porn. And I will explain why that is in a future video. So for the topic of this quick chat, because I've got a lot on, I'm a very, very busy occultist. I'm a busy little witch. Like a lot of my day now is very, very mapped out, and I really try and get through as much as I can. And I'm so, so very grateful that I can, that I have this level of work coming in. So if you'd like to book me for a reading, please go ahead and do so. I do private one-on-one chats just like this, or I do astrological chart readings where you get a report from me that is recorded and you can keep it for yourself to come back whenever you feel like it. So the topic of this chat primarily is, on my Instagram the other day, I did say, ask me anything, and, make it interesting. I don't want to see questions that are very low in frequency, very simple questions. I prefer very deep, interesting questions. I like deep conversations. All right. So I don't like my time being wasted. And I'm sure you don't either, unless you're an NPC and you're not going to be asking a serious question. One of the questions was, how does one overcome or deal with the outside world looking at them as if they are crazy? How does one overcome what other people think about them, especially when it comes to working with spirits, being in the occult, working with any level of spiritual system, having a daily practice, really thinking outside of the mainstream? How does one function? And this is such an awesome question that I really just wanted to think well, why not? How about I just jump on and just answer it? My answer to this question is quite straightforward. It's very simple, is that if I meet someone at a certain age, probably in their 30s by now, if they haven't started to figure out all of the infractions in the world, if they haven't started to question the nature of the systems that run the world and the people that run the world, or if they're not even familiar with certain types of literature, I would probably regard them as an NPC. And they're so far behind the eight ball that at a certain point, having a real spiritual awakening, like dark night of the soul type of stuff, when you really realize that everything, and I mean everything that you've been taught in school was all bullshit. Okay. And when you really get to that point, it's a very, very scary point. Okay. Because you'll start to see that, a lot of this stuff, that everything you've been shown, that you've been kind of programmed and conditioned to believe, just isn't real. People are fake. The media is fake. The news is fake. Medicine is fake. Even the weather patterns that you will see now is also tampered with. We've got fake pandemics. We've got fake revolutions. We've even got fake history that's been rewritten. We've got fake spirituality where people are just living in this kind of illusion and they try and build a business around that. Everything around you on some level is fake. It's phony. It isn't real. It's been carefully constructed to trap your mind, to keep you in the matrix, to keep you dumb, to keep you basically sedated. Humans these days in general will get more worked up about a fucking Taylor Swift concert than they would about their own liberties being taken from them. When we see stuff like one world government and we see, these very dark agendas that kind of slip in and that are coming in now, cashless societies, digital IDs, all of this stuff is super fucking serious stuff. And as far as I'm concerned, if you're not in the know of that, or if you're not even wanting to fight this, then you're part of the problem. And I have really nothing to really discuss with you. That's the truth. All right. So for the level of knowledge that I give and for my gifts, I've spent a lot of time, a lot of travel, a lot of introspection. And it is very hard to live in this state as just being me. This is not a game. This is fucking very serious stuff. And it's just my life now. All right. So I accept that and I understand that. The reason why I do this is because ultimately I want to leave the matrix just like you. You want to find ways to get out of the matrix. You want to probably get a lot of land out in the jungle or in the forest, out in the desert, in the hinterlands, and you want to build a community. You want to probably build a house that's very sustainable, and you don't want to be in some metropolitan shithole where it's completely oversaturated and the vibrational frequency of it is like raw sewage, which is what happens in metropolitan areas with people. So at this point, I realized, and I've come to a very serious conclusion, that I'm a human mortal that will die in this body. Okay, when I go, I'm gone. I don't give a shit. I've moved on. But for the time that I have now, I would rather paint a painting or make art or do these types of chats and these types of levels of spiritual consultation with my clients, because it makes me feel of service to people and that brings me peace. And I know that I have gifts that have to be given, and I am ready, like you, to, get out, live off grid. I don't want to go to shopping centers or be on trains or be on buses. I absolutely do not. I have no interest in, the more that I'm aging, the more that I'm rejecting the world and what it's become. Okay, so not just because I have a Sagittarius stellium and I'm all about freedom, I also pay a terrible price for just like ascension of the mind. By the way, a very real outcome of being a spiritualist is you actually lose your mind. When you start to see that the systems that are in place only work as well as everyone pretends it does, and then you start to see knowledge and the vastness of how vast this universe is, it's actually a bit beyond a normal human's comprehension. And that can lead to levels of like infestation or merging with spiritual entities. And that can be very serious and very dangerous. So sometimes some people that get into this go too far or too high, and becoming a mental patient in a mental institution, like shuffling the halls in a straitjacket, that is a very real risk that one can take if they aren't tethered properly. Okay? So I just wanted to put that warning there. This is a cautionary tale. I have heard of stories, I've seen it. Madness can be the price of expansion. So we have to do things to also ground us as well in the physical world. When I go into a ritual or I perform any level of very serious magical practice in the arts, I don't eat food for a couple of days. I know that most of you already know this, but when you are doing heavy-duty spell work or when you're doing heavy-duty spiritual exploration, you have to do it on an empty stomach. You can't be doing it on a full stomach because that will tether your physical body here. And a lot of your energy within your body and all of the chemicals in your body all go into the stomach to digest the food. And we don't want that. We want it all up in the head. Okay, so that's why you'll see, even in church, you'll see fasting is always connected to, spiritual praise of whatever level it is. Okay, so back to the topic at hand. How do I deal with it? I get to a point where when most people have to behave in a certain way, let's put it this way. Most people have to behave in a certain way that is conformative to the narrative of what other people want them to be for their survival. So as I have mentioned before, a lot of relationships now, most relationships, whether it's gay or straight, they're not based on love. Most of them are based on survival, like the cost of living and a dual income and that type of thing. Especially these days, like in the modern world, we're seeing that the divorce rate suddenly in Australia in the last 2 years has kind of come to a very grinding kind of halt position because people can't afford to get divorces. They can't afford to separate. Okay, so economics plays a massive part. Humans will choose survival over anything first. Okay, they'll choose survival. They'll stay in relationships that are long over because it's complacent and it allows them to survive. Okay, it's just the truth. And so when it comes to being seen from the outside world as a kook, I've been called every name under the sun, and I couldn't give a shit. It doesn't bother me. It doesn't faze me. I don't pay any attention to it. I don't connect with it. When you come out as a witch or a practitioner or even just someone that is spiritually awake, you're going to have to go through hell. You've got to go through the death of the version of you that you thought you were to get to the version of you that you will become. And that's very, very painful. So when people talk about waking up, a lot of people that have real spiritual waking up moments, they have to die. Their ego has to kind of die first. And that ego is really about your attachment to your own sense of self-concept. And a lot of that operates within astrology from the sun sign. It's how the world sees you and how I need to show up for the world so I can fit in. Okay, and we do that because we're conditioned to do that. But I've been self-employed for nearly 14 years. So I don't really have anyone telling me what to do. I don't have a boss to report to. I don't have a manager who's going to manage me. I just do whatever the fuck I want. When someone comes to me and they want something and I can do it for them, I just work it. Okay, that's it. So I don't have a limiting ceiling over me of how much money I can make. I'm not on a salary that locks me in. I'm all self-sufficient. So I take the weight of that. I can go sit in a cafe and have a nice breakfast and read the paper. Not that I would be bothered with that, but you know what I mean? So I don't have anyone over me dictating me. And so I have to know that if I'm going to go into a full day of work, it's because I want to and I'm motivated to do so. Humans operate from the profit motive. Okay, if you don't know what that is, it means that they are, whatever they're doing, they do it for a motivation of gain of something. They do it because they're going to get the reward. That's the what is it? The dog, ring the bell kind of thing. Do you get what I mean? So that's where humans usually operate. All right. So when you take the outcome of what other people think of you, it is very, very liberating. Okay, I'm not so concerning myself with what other people think of me. To a certain capacity, yes, it is important because people like to, and I've had I've had clients that have tried to say, you can't hurt me. You can't hurt me. I'm tough. Like they do the Capricorn thing and I'm like, oh dear. Well, I just reversed my car out of the driveway and I just slammed into your son on his bike and now I smashed both of his legs. Sorry, what was that you were saying about me not hurting you? And they go dead quiet. Everyone can be hurt. Not everyone is vulnerable. Everyone is also vulnerable to spiritual attack and spiritual influences and manipulation. Whether you know it or not, you already are. What do you think marketing is? What do you think color therapy is? Why is McDonald's red and yellow? Because it stimulates hunger. when you start to understand a lot of these corporations that you even may work for, they are sigils. All of the company logos aren't just logos, they're sigils. Sigils are like a calling card to the demonic world, especially around banks and finance. You know, Apple, taking a bite out of an apple. What do you think that means? Well, it means the tree of knowledge. Do you know what I mean? So when you start going down the rabbit hole, you can't help but be different. And so your level of integrity and your spiritual journey gets to a point where a lot of opinions or a lot of viewpoints that other people think of you are completely inconsequential to you. And you're more focused on your work and your stream of connection to the spiritual world than you are with other people and them gossiping about you. The truth of it is with humans, and even like mostly being an entrepreneurial person, no one really gives a fuck about you anyway. That's the truth. Unless you are making lots of money, people won't take you seriously. That's just how they're conditioned. All right. So that's the truth. All right. So if you are an entrepreneurial person and you're starting a business and you're hustling and you're young and you're coming in really hot, that no one's going to take it seriously of what you're kind of doing until it has like a yield or an outcome that is quite substantial. And that's when the jealousy comes in. So you could work your ass off on something, have a level of success with it. You'll get zero support from your family and friends. You'll probably get more support from perfect strangers on the internet than you will in your own real life. It's just the truth. It's just the truth. And then when you have some success, people will be like, oh, he's so lucky. You know, a common one that I get with my art is people saying, you're so talented. That's offensive. This isn't talent. This is a skill set that I worked for to develop from a very young age. I busted my ass to develop a skill set. All of the artwork, all of the drawings, all of the Algoliath tarot, all of the books, all of the paintings, everything that I've done is built on top of everything that came before it that I've done. So there's no luck involved. This isn't like something like I jumped off a cliff and I happened to survive. This is work. It's commitment and focus and dedication and a lot of coffees and existential crises and nihilism and emotions and blood and sweat and tears. When I make something, I make it from my hands and from my heart. That's not talent. That's work. Okay? Same with me building my connection to the spirits. That's a working relationship that I have with them. Okay? It's all effort versus outcome. And of course, what is it when, I'm not sure who said it. I'm not sure. I hope it wasn't Oprah, but I think it's like luck is when circumstance meets opportunity at the right time. Okay? So at this point, if you haven't gone down the rabbit holes, if you haven't started to notice the systems that are in play, if you haven't started to see it, I don't know what to tell you. You're ignorant or you're unwilling to see what's going on, and you're lazy. You know, you're very lazy. I mean, these public. How do I say it? Say things like the Ed Gacy files or, certain levels of CERN that have come out. These are actually public documents that you can actually get your hands on for free on the internet. So, I mean, at this point, when you look at like the water, the poisons, the microplastics, when you look at the rise of cancer, when you look at Big Daddy Pharma, the pandemic, I think, opened up a lot of people's eyes. You'll start to see that things are very off. Things are very, very fishy here. So I would say listen to that. Okay, if you think that the government is going to take care of you, you're fucked. You're absolutely fucked. All right, so we are heading into a time now where we're looking at like Oceania stuff. We're looking at Big Brother. We're looking at George Orwell's 1984. That is where we are headed. We are heading, and we are currently living. We are currently living in a Black Mirror episode. The episode called Nosedive. Have you seen that episode? I would absolutely recommend watching it. And you can feel that. People can feel this now. Okay? So thinking about what other people think about you, first of all, most people aren't thinking about you. They're too selfish, and they're just thinking about themselves. Second of all, we have Islam, and that is growing in the West. That's procreating massively and spreading throughout all of the countries. They also want to do this as well for other reasons I probably can't list here on a public platform. You'll notice the immigration levels are going through the roof. Okay? What do you think's going to happen here? All right? So that level of religion is already like billions of people that by 2060 will basically be overrun. And that will also set us backwards quite substantially as well for other reasons I can't go into. But if you know, you know. And so that religion in itself is already in absolute opposition to any level of occultism like what I practice. So they're going to hate you anyway. And that's a big thing that I would say I had to learn the hard way, and I've had lots of painful lessons in learning to not be of concern of what other people think of me. Because when you're appeasing people, you are not living in integrity. You're only producing things that other people will like. And that's not the purpose of an artist. I've always admired a man, you may know him. His name is Alan Moore, and he is one of the most prolific writers of the modern world and really revolutionized the comic book industry and story writing and fiction. And I just find him to be a very, very fascinating man. One of the things that he has mentioned publicly in interviews was that it is the job of the artist to give the people what they need. If the people knew what they needed, then they would be the artist. So what we're saying, what he's really saying is, you have to do you. And if you appease other people, then you're at the mercy of other people and they have a power over you. Okay? So a lot of fear that we have, fear keeps people trapped. Fear keeps people in complacency. And complacency and being compliant is what others above you want. Most people, when they get a letter from the taxation office, they completely collapse on the floor. They don't think that they have the right to challenge. They don't think they have the right to speak up. And that's exactly what they want. And when we say they, we need to be very specific about who we're referring to here. Okay? Because the government is what? It's made up of what? People. But who's running that? Who's above that? You know, people look at political systems or political parties, but when you start to trace the cords back to the wall, even with banks, you'll see they're all run by like two people. And those people are never mentioned. Okay? I will be doing a video on the elites at some point as well. I'll be talking about the family line, the bloodlines, the royal family. I'll be going into a bit of that. But yeah, so get to a place within yourself where your authenticity and your integrity is stronger than an outside influence. And I would rather you just get that and get it good, because as soon as you do, you will understand that it really is about you and your journey and your unique journey. You're not living for other people. You're not tailoring or modifying yourself. The thing about it is that humans are an interdependent species. So we need other people to like us or want us. Humans are programmed kind of like innately to fuck. That sexual aspect of a human is already there because it inspires procreation with other humans. Humans are actually a tribal species. All right. So any level of fragmentation, so fragmentation is separation from a group, will cause trauma and it will cause atrophication. So nothing will heal another human more than being around another human or a group of humans. And nothing will destroy another human more than being around a group of humans. Humans are the medicine for each other, and they are also the poison for each other at the same time. Okay, it's this whole polarity thing. It's a thing, okay? So if you put a human on their own for long periods of time, what happens to think of like the movie Jurassic Park, one of those Jurassic Park films, when they take a dinosaur and put it away in a pen from other animals. It becomes violent, it becomes damaged, it becomes fucked up. Okay, we did see that a lot with like isolation of people. That's why in prisons, being put away in a room and locked away in solitude, in solitary confinement, can actually cause, severe psychological punishment and a mental break. The tricky thing is with some people, and this is also a thing with certain personality types like myself, the longer I've actually been alone, rather than seek an audience with people, I decided to rather than go outwards, I went inwards. And that's why I need a lot of solitude and a lot of alone time, because I would rather build a relationship with the spiritual world and try and connect with a demon or an angel. That would interest me more than talking to some fucking stupid human about some bullshit. And so what has happened and what can often happen is what has happened to me. You start to prioritize your spiritual evolution. I'm a spiritual whore. I'm absolutely totally okay with that term, because I am absolutely so immersed in the current. I call it the current, that as I'm getting older, a lot of these people and a lot of these relationships, I've completely outgrown them and they're inconsequential to me. So I want to go higher and higher and higher. And the more that I go, the more power I get, the more knowledge I get, the more privy I am to things. And that excites me. Okay, so this is a very hard frontier and it's a very lonely frontier, doing like even just being into astrology and the study of spiritual science. This is something that is very lonely. A lot of people would never be able to do this or wouldn't want to do this because they are programmed and conditioned to follow a structure. Go to work, do what my boss tells me, clock in, clock out, get on the wheel, chase a carrot that never comes, get old, retire, and then die. I was looking at that model from a childhood age and going, I don't want to do that. That's not on the menu for me. All right. So it comes down to a lot of factors, but when you get to a place where you just don't care anymore, and it's tricky, like I was saying before, is that humans want to fit into a group, even if the group is completely dysfunctional. Absolutely dysfunctional. And I did mention that's what I was talking about in my last couple of videos is the thing about humans that I have noticed is a lot of them, they will choose connection in a group or an ideology that may be even to their own detriment, and they'll hand over their own individuality and individualism for collectivism any day of the week. All right. So when you look at people, say it's like a bikie gang, or whether it's like a clubhouse that they go to, or whether it's like a bunch of old ladies knitting on the balcony, or whether it's the bowling club, whether it's even the KKK, the Ku Klux Klan, generally what you'll find is the people that go there don't really go there to do the thing that they're going there to do. They're going there because they want human interaction, because it calms their nervous system. It makes them feel like they're a part of something. It gives them purpose. Okay, so purpose is what compels people to do things. That's why when people say, why did he do it? Well, because he wanted to. Why does anyone do anything? Because they want to. It's desire that propels us forward. Okay? So I know this has been a lot. I wanted to keep this tight. We'll keep it here at 34 minutes. But yeah, this is my answer to that question. And I've tried to really summarize and put as much of it as I can into it. Stop giving a fuck about what other people think. Most people are lost as hell. They've got no idea what they're doing, and they're just living in autopilot. When you switch the fuck off out of autopilot, that's when you're probably going to collapse on the floor. And that's when we can really find out who you really are, the real you. All right. So with this whole rebirthing thing that we've talked about, I've mentioned this in previous videos, you have to die to something first to have rebirth. Everyone wants to be the pretty fucking bird from Harry Potter, the phoenix, and they love that bird, that beautiful mystical bird. Hey, I love it too. But we have to understand that the version of you that you were has to die so the new version can be born. And then that version will die and another one will be reborn. It's just rebirth. Okay, until there's a rebirth, nothing's really happening here. And that is painful. It is scary. It's very, very painful to go through any level of dark night of the soul. But at the same time, it's quite exciting because you've reached a point now where you have had to come to a place where that paradigm of you wasn't working. It was not working. You couldn't continue that anymore. So now there's no other place to go but in a new direction. So if you're coming over to the spiritual world, you have to be in alignment with it. A lot of people come to this path because they just want an outcome. They want to get something. Fastest way to get nothing. Okay, the reason a lot of people don't have success in the spiritual world is because they're not in fucking alignment and they're not acting in fucking integrity. And therefore, if it's not in alignment in your heart, it's not going to work. Okay? I know this has been intense, but yes, I will be coming back and continuing that series. And if you would have other questions you'd like to ask me for other topics, for chats just like this, very real, very raw, then come over and leave a comment below and ask me anything. Make it interesting. I love interesting questions. It's just so much more fun. Okay, bye.